Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. We got some breaking news for you as we start the show today. Mark Dantonio, who has been at Michigan State for a very long time and has had a historic level of success at that program, is resigning. He had just announced it about 20 minutes ago, posted a resignation letter on Twitter. This comes in consult with the latest NCAA violations, and as a result, the Michigan State job is open. Somebody just said historic, honest question. I think he's had a historic run by Michigan State standards. I do. He made it to the playoff. He won the Big Ten. I mean, this is not one of the top jobs in the Big Ten. In particular, it's at best the fourth best job in the Big Ten East, where you're going to have to deal with Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan every single year. So he also resigned, this is crazy, 2 weeks ago. On January 15th, he received a $4.5 million extension bonus. 2 weeks after that, he cuts bait. Timing on this is very strange. It's the day before the second signing period. You know, they had the early signing period. This is the second signing period. There are several names. I'm curious who you guys would hire if you were the AD of Michigan State. You can hop in over in the comments and let me know. Here are three names that immediately come to mind for me that could make sense at Michigan State. Luke Fickle. Luke Fickle is an easy hire. He's recruited well at Cincinnati. He's won. I think that could make a lot of sense beyond a shadow of a doubt. By the way, somebody who wants to comment on my shirts, why do you even come in here? What a loser thing to be focused on. These are T-shirts. T-shirts don't have tailors. They work fabulously, as anybody who has bought a T-shirt knows. I think Luke Fickle could make a lot of sense from Cincinnati. I think Dave Clawson from Wake Forest could make sense. I think some people will float Butch Jones' name. I don't think he will get this job. And then I'm sure there are a lot of young people out there, and give them an opportunity to rise up and take the job. I would also say a couple of more names that I think could make sense. You may want to try to call Les Miles. I don't know that he would leave Kansas, but it's at least worth thinking about whether he might be interested in this job given his connections to Michigan over the years. I think his age would work against it. I wouldn't really advise that. Some people are going to say Bob Stoops. That's crazy. There's no way that actually makes sense. But I also think maybe there's a value in reaching out to some of the younger assistant coaches here. There's no way. Joe Moorhead, I don't think would make a lot of sense, although you could at least argue that based on his success at Penn State and in the Northeast. I don't think it makes a lot of sense personally because of the way things went down at Mississippi State. My bet would be Dave Clawson or Luke Fickle as the early leaders to potentially get this job. I think the things that work against the Michigan State job are pretty straightforward, and it's three. It's Ohio State, it's Penn State, and it's Michigan, who are all in your division and all are in much better positions. Not to mention that you are recruiting in a tough demographic market, meaning that the population of Michigan continues to decline. You have to get the guys that Ohio State and Michigan, by and large, don't want. And so I think, you think about a guy like Dave Clawson. He won down the road in Bowling Green with guys that were not exactly high-level recruits in the Big Ten. I think that's probably the direction you need to go with a Dave Clawson or a Luke Fickle would be my two early leads for who might get the Michigan State job. Let's talk about this debacle in Iowa. I am blown away by the fact that we can have Democrats running for the presidency for over a year in Iowa. They've been going to the Iowa Fair. They've been going to, I think it's all 99 counties. They have been going everywhere, all over the place, in an effort to try to persuade people to caucus for them. And then for some reason, after having a system that appears to have worked fine for decades, the Democrats decide to create a new app shortly before the votes will actually be taken and everybody will be caucusing, and the app falls apart. This is a mess. The latest report that I have seen is at 5 o'clock Eastern, the Iowa Democrats hope to be able to announce 50% of the results so far. But my God, this is an utter disaster for the start of the Democratic nomination process. First of all, while the Democrats have spent a lot of time talking about rigged elections, the one group that's been proven in the United States to be rigging elections is the Democratic National Committee. In the Hillary Clinton email scandal dump, it was straightforward and clear that the DNC was working and conspiring to try to ensure that Hillary Clinton got the nomination in 2016 instead of Bernie Sanders. And so if I'm in the Bernie Sanders camp today, and you were the favorite to win the Iowa caucus, and you're the favorite to win the New Hampshire primary, I find this awfully suspicious that you have deprived me, in theory, from the opportunity of getting a huge election night victory bump. I also think it's wild that guys like Mayor Pete went out and claimed victory, even though you're not going to be anywhere near victorious. I think before all is said and done, everybody's going to be throwing their hands up and saying, how in the world can you trust anything from the Iowa caucus, which makes next week's decision in New Hampshire and the following one in South Carolina and Nevada matter even more. So this whole thing is really, really strange. And I don't understand why, and this goes for larger technological issues in general. If something's not broken, why in the world would you feel the need to fix it? I don't know why you need an app. I think there's probably a lot of you out there that work at places of business where you had a system that was working fine. Some person came in and said, hey, we need to replace this with something else, and the replacement never works, and there's all sorts of flaws and errors in trying to apply it in any way. I just don't get it. It doesn't make a bit of sense at all to me. Look, I think Bernie's going to win Iowa eventually when the results come out, although nobody will trust him. I think he'll win New Hampshire. I think Biden will win South Carolina. Nevada's a toss-up. And as I told you guys before, I believe that there are three contenders that will ultimately be left after the Super Tuesday primary days. I think it'll be Mike Bloomberg. I think it'll be Bernie Sanders. And I think it'll be Joe Biden. The Democrats are going to nominate a white guy over the age of 75. I think Bernie is their worst option. I think Joe Biden probably is their best, and I think Bloomberg is somewhere in between the two. That would be how I break it down. This is crazy. The Vanderbilt athletic director, after less than a year, has been removed from office. They say that he's resigning, but it's my understanding that basically he was forced out. There are reports that there are $17 million missing in the Vanderbilt coffers, that David Williams, who I knew well, the prior athletic director, left them a rainy day fund, and it has totally vanished in the process of a relatively short period of time. This is unheard of for an athletic director to be in for only 1 year, and boom, he is gone. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Again, the report, $17 million potentially missing that they can't account for. That's the report of one of the rival sites that covers Vanderbilt. And so as a result, Malcolm Turner is out. There's not been a lot of explanation. There's an interim AD that's been promoted, the first female AD in the history of the Southeastern Conference. And we'll see what ends up happening here. But this is a big mess. A big mess indeed. Remember, Jerry Stackhouse was just hired by Malcolm Turner, who fired Bryce Drew. And meanwhile, you look at Derek Mason. He's been not very good at all as a head coach, yet he was given the vote of confidence by an AD that's no longer there. This is a messy situation, and I don't expect that this story is going to disappear anytime soon. A couple of other stories that I think are intriguing. The Jacksonville Jaguars have announced that they are playing 2 games in London this year. Why not go ahead and announce that the team is moving to London? Because every year they try to be taking a little bit more, it seems, steps to be British. They will be playing back-to-back games in London this year. If you haven't heard this yet, it just came out today. The Jacksonville Jaguars playing back-to-back games in London. First time this has ever happened. They haven't announced exactly who will be playing there, whether they might be division games or not, but this is a further indication of Jacksonville attempting to step across the pond and become either the London Jaguars or the London Shagwars. Yes, we have potentially an NFL exit situation going on just in time for Brexit. They'll be playing at Wembley Stadium, back-to-back games. I'm curious to see how all of this is going to shake out. But again, the Jags, first time ever, back-to-back games in London. It means they will only play 6 games at home in Jacksonville. They will play 2 over the pond in England. Finally, KJ Costello, and yes, I do believe that it is a viable option to put a team in London. I went over there, not this past season, but the season before with my family. We watched the Titans play against the LA Chargers, had a fabulous time, found there to be a substantial NFL rooting interest and fan base over there. I like the idea of a London team because I like the idea of a game kicking off at 9:30 a.m. Eastern every Sunday. It gives us a new window for at least 8 times out of the years. But yeah, if I'm a season ticket holder of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm pissed. And this reminds me a little bit of how things went down before the St. Louis Rams moved to LA. Remember all of the discussions about the fact that there was an interest in putting a team over in LA, and everybody would say, oh, well, the Rams aren't going to leave, and they put out all those claptrap about how they weren't going to actually leave, and then boom, all of a sudden they announced that they're moving to LA. It feels like that's kind of what's going on with Jacksonville right now. Like they're tiptoeing their way over the Atlantic, and everybody out there is pretending that it's not going to happen, when the reality is the Jags want to be, I think, in London instead of Jacksonville. Finally, KJ Costello has graduated from Stanford and he is transferring to Mississippi State. This is a guy that looked like a big-time quarterback prospect at one point for Stanford. Instead, he's going to go join Mike Leach down in Stark Vegas. This also is another graduate transfer quarterback in the SEC West. Felipe Franks previously announced that he was going to Arkansas. This will be a story worth following given how much success Mike Leach has had in general with the quarterback position. It seems like he believes KJ Costello is going to be a good fit for his offense. Should be a lot of fun to watch and see how Mike Leach transitions to SEC football with a brand new quarterback graduate transfer in KJ Costello. Okay, I appreciate all of you. My name is Clay Travis. We do this show every single day. It's called Outkick the Show. I come and talk about whatever the biggest stories of the world are and give you an opportunity to hear all this from me in addition to the 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern morning show, as well as Lock It In, which will be on in a little over an hour on FS1. Appreciate all of you who watched our Fox broadcast. We had the biggest audience, 640,000, that has ever watched a Lock It In show on Saturday on Big Fox. So I appreciate all of you. Thanks. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP, I will see you on Lock It In a little bit. This has been Outkick the Show on good old Clay Travis Network here. See y'all. Bye. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See ya.